The stars looked different that morning. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terran defense ship Valiant, staring at the screen before him. Something massive had just appeared at the edge of their solar system. The sensors were going crazy, showing readings that made no sense. "Captain, you need to see this," his communications officer said. Her voice shook slightly. Jake moved closer to her station. The image on the screen made his breath catch. Ships. Enormous ships. They were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The vessels looked like they were made of crystal and light, glowing with colors that seemed to shift and change. "How many?" Jake asked. 12 capital ships. Maybe 100 smaller ones. "Sir, they just appeared. No warp signatures, no energy buildup. They were just suddenly there." Jake had been in space for 20 years. He had seen a lot of strange things, but nothing like this. Earth had been alone in the universe as far as they knew. Now, it seemed, they had visitors. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have contact." The words felt heavy in his mouth. First contact. The moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. But something about this felt wrong. The ships were not approaching slowly or carefully. They were moving toward Earth like they owned the place. 3 hours later, Jake received orders to make contact. He positioned the Valiant between Earth and the alien fleet. It was a tiny ship compared to theirs, like a rowboat next to an aircraft carrier. But it was his duty to be the first line of defense. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." The response came immediately. Not in words at first, but in feeling. Jake felt something push into his mind, gentle but firm. Images flooded his thoughts. Ancient cities, vast empires, thousands of worlds bowing before mighty beings of light. Then a voice spoke, and it sounded like music and thunder combined. "We are the Vorathene. We have guided the galaxy for 50,000 years. You are young. You are children. We have come to bring you into the fold." The main screen flickered, and a figure appeared. Jake had to force himself not to step back. The being was tall, easily 8 feet, with skin that glowed from within. Its eyes held stars. It wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid light. "I am High Ascendant Zarkon, voice of the Eternal Empire. Who speaks for your species?" "I speak for Earth's defenders," Jake said, keeping his voice steady. "But our leaders will want to meet with you directly." "As it should be," Zarkon said. His voice held a note of amusement, like an adult indulging a child. "We will speak with your elders. Tell them to prepare for our arrival." Down on Earth, President Connor Blake stood in the emergency council chamber. Every nation's leader had gathered, either in person or by video link. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Commander Lisa Hayes, Earth's chief military strategist, stood before the council. She had been studying the data from the Valiant. Nothing about it was good. "Their technology is far beyond ours," she said. "Our best estimates suggest they could destroy our entire fleet in minutes. Maybe faster." "Then we negotiate," someone said. "We find common ground. Discarded people. Mine, Veladin. And round 17. Or we prepare for war," another voice countered. "Against what?" Lisa replied. "Look at these readings. Their smallest ship has more firepower than our entire orbital defense network. They can manipulate matter at the quantum level. They have energy shields we cannot even detect, let alone penetrate." President Blake raised his hand for silence. "What do they want?" "They say they want to guide us," Lisa said. "But that is just another word for control." The Vorathene arrived at Earth 3 days later. Their flagship positioned itself in orbit, visible to everyone below as a shining star that did not move. Zarkon requested a meeting with Earth's leaders. They met in the United Nations building. Zarkon arrived without guards, walking through the halls like he was touring a museum. His presence made everyone uncomfortable. He was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "You have done well for such a young species," Zarkon said, taking a seat that seemed too small for him. "We have watched your development. You show promise." President Blake sat across from him. "We appreciate your interest, but Earth is an independent world. We govern ourselves." Zarkon smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "You govern yourselves, because no one has come to guide you yet. That changes now." "Explain," Blake said. "We are the shepherds of civilization. Across the galaxy, we have brought order to chaos. We have ended wars, united species, and brought peace to 1,000 worlds. We offer this to you." "At what cost?" Lisa Hayes asked from her position behind the president. Zarkon turned his glowing eyes to her. "You are perceptive. The cost is simple. You surrender your weapons. You accept our governors. You integrate into the Empire. In return, we give you technology. We give you peace. We give you a place among the stars." "You want us to give up our freedom," Blake said. "Freedom?" Zarkon laughed, and it echoed through the chamber. "Freedom is what primitives have before they learn the burden of civilization. We offer you ascension. We offer you a purpose greater than your small world. And if we refuse?" Zarkon stood. His form seemed to grow larger, filling the room with light. "No one refuses. Not in the end. We have brought 847 species into the fold. All of them resisted at first. All of them learned. You will too." "You are threatening us," Lisa said. "I am stating facts," Zarkon replied. "You are children playing with fire. We are offering to teach you before you burn yourselves. You have 48 hours to consider." He left without waiting for a response. The council erupted into arguments. Some wanted to accept. Others wanted to fight. President Blake sat quietly, listening to it all. Finally, he spoke. "We did not climb out of the caves to bow to anyone. We did not reach the stars to surrender them. Send the Vorathene, our answer. Earth stands free." The response came exactly 48 hours later. Every orbital defense platform Earth had built suddenly went dark. Not destroyed, just turned off. Floating dead in space, their systems completely disabled. Zarkon's voice broadcast on every frequency. "We have ended empires that spanned 1,000 worlds. You are children playing with fire. We will be patient, but you will learn." Jake Morrison watched from the Valiant as Earth's defenses died without a shot fired. He activated his communication channel to Earth Command. "Sir, what are your orders?" The response took a moment. When it came, it was President Blake himself. "Stand your ground, Captain. Humanity does not bow. Not today. Not ever." Jake looked at the massive Vorathene fleet surrounding his tiny ship. He thought about the odds. He thought about the impossibility of what they faced. Then he smiled. "Understood, sir. We will stand." The Vorathene had called themselves gods. They had conquered nearly 900 species. They had never lost. But they had never met humans before. 3 months had passed since the Vorathene arrived. Their ships hung in orbit like silent judges, watching everything humanity did. They had not attacked, but their presence was suffocating. Colonel Danny Webb crouched behind a lunar rock formation, watching the Vorathene outpost through his helmet display. His team of 12 soldiers waited for his signal. They had explosives, railguns, and determination. It would not be enough. It never was. "Go," he whispered. They moved fast, spreading across the gray dust of the moon's surface. The Vorathene outpost glowed ahead, a dome of crystalline material that pulsed with inner light. No guards stood outside. The Vorathene did not need guards. Danny reached the wall first. He placed the explosive charge, set the timer, and retreated. The blast would barely scratch their technology. But that was not the point. The point was to show they had not given up. The explosion came right on time. A bright flash in the lunar darkness. The Vorathene dome flickered, but did not break. An alarm did not sound. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then the dome simply dissolved, and 3 Vorathene stepped out. They looked at the humans with expressions that might have been curiosity, or might have been pity. One of them raised a hand. Danny's team flew backward, thrown by invisible force. They landed hard but alive. Their weapons clattered uselessly on the moon's surface. The Vorathene walked back inside. The dome reformed. The message was clear. They did not even consider humans a threat. Danny reported the failure to Commander Lisa Hayes later that day. She sat in the underground command center beneath the Colorado mountains, surrounded by screens showing the hopeless situation from every angle. "We have hit them 17 times, Danny said. "We have used every weapon we have. Nothing works. Their shields do not even flicker." "I know," Lisa said. She looked tired. She had not slept properly in weeks. "But we keep trying. The moment we stop, we have already lost." Ambassador Nicole Grant joined them, fresh from another pointless negotiation session with the Vorathene. She dropped into a chair and rubbed her eyes. "I talked to Zarkon again today," Nicole said. "I asked him why they are doing this. Why they need to control us." "What did he say?" Lisa asked. "He said they are saving us from ourselves. He showed me images of the other species they have conquered. He calls it ascending. He truly believes he is doing us a favor. He left. He thinks he is a god," Danny said bitterly. "No," Nicole replied. "He knows he is a god. Or close enough. Lisa, I have been studying their history through the data they shared. The Vorathene have ruled for 50,000 years. They have never lost a war. They have conquered 847 different species. Every single one. Eventually submitted. We are not every other species," Lisa said. "But what makes us different?" Nicole asked. "They have technology we cannot match. They have power we cannot fight. What do we have?" The question hung in the air. Danny had no answer. Lisa stared at the screens, watching Vorathene ships patrol the solar system like they owned it. Across the solar system, on a hidden research station on one of Saturn's moons, Dr. Kevin Patterson made a discovery. He had been studying the captured sensor data from every encounter with the Vorathene. He had watched their shields deflect missiles, absorb laser fire, and shrug off nuclear explosions. But he had noticed something. A pattern. The shields worked by manipulating quantum frequencies, creating a barrier that existed slightly out of phase with normal matter. They were incredibly sophisticated, but they operated on specific wavelengths. "What if we cannot break through?" Kevin muttered to himself. "What if we go around instead?" He ran simulation after simulation. The theory was solid, but testing it would require getting close to a Vorathene ship. Very close. And that would require someone willing to die trying. Back on Earth, President Blake addressed the world. Cities sat in darkness, actage, their power grids shut down by Vorathene interference. The aliens had demonstrated their control over human technology by turning off the lights. If people wanted power back, all they had to do was submit. Blake stood in front of cameras powered by hidden generators. His face looked older than it had 3 months ago. "They think they can break us by taking away our comfort," Blake said. "They think we will bow for electricity and running water. They do not understand what it means to be human. They think they won. They do not understand what it means to be human. They won. They won. We come from a world that tried to kill us at every turn. Ice ages, plagues, predators, starvation. We survived it all. We thrived despite it. Our ancestors did not have electricity. They did not have running water. They had will. They had determination. They had the refusal to quit. The Vorathene have given us a choice. Comfort or freedom. They think we will choose comfort. They are wrong." The speech went viral, spreading through underground networks and hidden transmissions. people began to adapt. Cities ran on generators. Communication shifted to methods the Vorathene could not easily intercept. Humanity learned to live in the dark. Zarkon watched the speech from his flagship. He did not understand. Every other species had broken by now. The humans should be begging for mercy. Instead, they were digging in deeper. "Why do they persist?" he asked his second-in-command. "They are proud," the other Vorathene replied. "All young species are. They will learn. It has been 3 months. They should have learned by now. Perhaps we need to apply more pressure." Zarkon considered this. The Vorathene prided themselves on being civilized conquerors. They did not massacre populations. They guided them. But the humans were testing his patience. "Target their orbital stations," he ordered. "Nothing that will kill them. Just enough to remind them who holds the power here." That night, Vorathene ships fired on Earth's remaining space stations. The weapons struck with surgical precision, disabling the stations without destroying them. Thousands of people were stranded in dying stations, their life support systems failing. Jake Morrison received the distress calls on the Valiant. His ship was too small to rescue everyone. He would have to choose who lived and who died. "All ships, this is Morrison. We are going in. Save everyone you can." The Terran fleet moved toward the crippled stations. The Vorathene ships watched but did not interfere. They had made their point. Jake's ship docked with the nearest station. His crew worked frantically, pulling survivors through airlocks. They saved 200 people. Another 50 died before they could reach them. As Jake prepared to leave, he looked at the Vorathene flagship through the viewport. It hung there, beautiful and terrible, glowing with its own light. He made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed under normal circumstances. "Navigation? Set a collision course with that flagship." "Captain?" his navigator asked. "You heard me. Everyone else, get to the escape pods. You have 2 minutes." "Sir, we are not abandoning you." "That is an order," Jake shouted. "Go! Now!" His crew reluctantly evacuated. Jake sat alone on the bridge, steering the Valiant toward the Vorathene ship. He knew the shields would destroy him. He knew this would accomplish nothing militarily, but it would accomplish something else. He opened a channel that broadcast to every human frequency. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. I am done watching us take punches from these so-called gods. They think they can break us. They think we will quit." The Valiant accelerated, its engines burning at maximum. The Vorathene flagship grew larger in the viewport. "We are humans. We do not know how to quit. We do not know how to surrender. And we definitely do not bow." End quote. I mended it Marning. End quote. 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 The Vorathene shields intercepted the Valiant when it was still a kilometer away. The ship came apart in an instant, vaporized by energy that burned hotter than a star. Jake Morrison died without feeling pain. But his message reached Earth. It reached Mars. It reached every human outpost in the solar system. People watched the recording of his final words. They watched a man fly his ship into certain death just to prove a point. And they understood. The Vorathene had power. They had technology. They had conquered 847 species. But they had never fought anyone who would rather die than bow. In her command center, Lisa Hayes watched the recording for the 5th time. Tears ran down her face. But she was also smiling. "You beautiful, crazy fool," she whispered. Then she turned to her team. "Get me Dr. Patterson. Tell him I do not care if his theory is ready or not. We are done defending. It is time to attack." "Doctor." Kevin Patterson stood before the War Council, his hands shaking slightly as he held up a small device. It looked like nothing special, just a metal cylinder with blinking lights, but it represented months of desperate work. "This is a quantum frequency disruptor," he said. "It does not break through Vorathene shields. It makes them think our weapons are friendly. President Blake leaned forward. Explain that in simple terms. Their shields work by identifying threats and blocking them. But the shields have to let some things through, or the Vorathene themselves could not fire their own weapons. I found the frequency they use for their own systems. If we broadcast on that same frequency, their shields hesitate. Just for a microsecond. But that might be enough. Microsecond. Might be? Commander Lisa Hayes asked. I cannot test it without getting close to them. And if it does not work, whoever tries will die. It will work, Lisa said. She had studied the data herself. The theory was sound. Get this installed on every ship we have left. We are going to make them bleed. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat in the intelligence section, surrounded by screens showing Vorathene fleet movements. She had been watching them for weeks, tracking every patrol, every position change, every action they took, and she had noticed something important. Commander Hayes, she called out. You need to see this. Lisa came over, looking at the pattern Amy had highlighted. What am I looking at? Watch how they move. See? The lead ship always goes first. The others follow in exact formation. They patrol the same routes at the same times. They respond to threats with the same tactics every single time. They are predictable, Lisa said, understanding dawning. Exactly. They have fought 847 species and won every time using the same approach. They have never needed to change. They have never needed to adapt. They do not know how. Lisa felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. They are powerful, she said slowly. But they are also stuck in their ways. Like a chess master who has only ever played beginners. They know all the standard moves. But they have never faced someone who would flip the board. So we flip the board, Amy said. We flip the board, Lisa agreed. Operation Blind Spot launched 3 days later. Every available human ship prepared for battle. They were badly outnumbered and outgunned. But now they had something the Vorathene did not expect. A weakness to exploit. Colonel Danny Webb led the ground forces on a diversionary attack against the lunar outpost. The Vorathene, predictable as always, responded by moving ships to defend it. That left a gap in their orbital formation around Earth. Lisa watched from the underground command center as the plan unfolded. All ships, you are clear to engage. Remember, we only need to score one hit. Show them that gods can bleed. Captain Beth Carlson, who had taken over Jake Morrison's position, led the attack wing. Her ship, the Defiant, had been fitted with Dr. Patterson's quantum disruptor. So had 20 other vessels. They came in fast and low, skimming Earth's atmosphere before burning toward the Vorathene formation. The alien ships, following their standard protocols, arranged themselves in defensive positions they had used for thousands of years. Activate disruptors, Beth commanded. The quantum frequency devices lit up, broadcasting on the same wavelength the Vorathene used for their own systems. For a microsecond, the alien shields flickered, confused about whether the incoming missiles were threats or friendly fire. A microsecond was all humanity needed. 3 missiles penetrated the shields of a Vorathene destroyer. They struck the crystalline hull and exploded. The damage was not catastrophic, but it was real. The destroyer's glow dimmed slightly as secondary explosions rippled across its surface. On the Vorathene flagship, alarms blared for the first time in centuries. High Ascendant Zarkon stared at the damage report in disbelief. How? He demanded. None of his officers had an answer. It should have been impossible. The Vorathene had the most advanced defensive technology in the galaxy. No weapon should have touched them. Return fire, Zarkon ordered. Destroy those ships. The Vorathene weapons activated, and the human fleet scattered. Beth watched as 5 ships to her left simply vanished, vaporized by energy beams. The Valiant's sensors showed 10 more ships destroyed in the first exchange. But humanity had proven something crucial. The Vorathene could be hurt. Fall back, Beth ordered. We got what we came for. The surviving human ships retreated to the outer system. They had lost 15 vessels and over 3,000 people, but the damaged Vorathene destroyer limped back to the fleet, visible proof that the gods were not invincible. News of the attack spread across Earth within hours. People gathered in streets, in shelters, in hidden bunkers, and they cheered. For the first time since the Vorathene arrived, humanity had struck back successfully. In the Vorathene fleet, confusion reigned. The High Council convened an emergency session. Other ascendants arrived from nearby systems, summoned by Zarkon's distress call. "This is unacceptable," one of them declared. "How can primitives damage our vessels?" "They are adapting," Zarkon said, "faster than any species we have encountered. Then we must adapt as well." "We do not adapt," another ascendant said firmly. "We are Vorathene. We are perfection. The humans simply got lucky." Zarkon was not so sure. He had been studying human history, trying to understand what made them different. What he found disturbed him. Earth was a death world. Humans had evolved alongside predators that could kill them easily. They had survived ice ages that should have wiped them out. They had fought diseases, starvation, and each other. Every generation of humans had been forced to adapt or die. The Vorathene, by contrast, had been dominant for so long they had forgotten what it meant to struggle. "We should destroy their planet," one ascendant suggested. "Make an example of them." "No," Zarkon said. "We are not butchers. We are shepherds. To destroy them would prove we are no better than the savages we claim to guide." "Then what do you suggest?" "We increase pressure. We show them the futility of resistance, and we prepare for them to try their trick again." But preparing meant changing tactics. And the Vorathene had not changed tactics in thousands of years. Back on Earth, Lisa Hayes gathered her team for the next phase. Dr. Patterson was already working on improvements to the disruptors. Amy Foster was analyzing Vorathene response patterns. Danny Webb was preparing ground forces for more aggressive attacks. "They will adapt," Lisa said. "They have to. Which means we need to stay ahead of them." "How?" someone asked. "They have had 50,000 years to perfect their technology. We have had 3 months." "Exactly," Lisa replied. "We have 3 months of experience fighting them. They have 50,000 years of fighting people who eventually gave up. We need to make them fight a war they have never seen before." And Nicole Grant, the ambassador, spoke up. "I received another message from Zarkon. He wants to negotiate. After we hurt them, now he wants to talk?" "He is confused," Nicole said. "I can hear it in his voice. The Vorathene do not understand us. They keep expecting us to break, and we keep surprising them." "Good," Lisa said. "Let them be confused. Confusion leads to mistakes, and we need them to make mistakes." That night, humanity launched a dozen small attacks across the solar system. None of them did significant damage. But that was not the point. The attacks came from unexpected directions, used different tactics, and forced the Vorathene to split their forces. The aliens responded the way they always had, following textbook procedures that had worked for millennia. But humanity was not following any textbook. On the hidden research station, Dr. Patterson made another breakthrough. The crashed Vorathene destroyer had been recovered from lunar orbit. His team was studying the wreckage, pulling apart alien technology to understand how it worked. "Their systems are incredibly advanced," Kevin told Lisa over a secure channel. "But they are also incredibly specialized. Everything is designed to do one thing perfectly. There is no redundancy, no backup systems, because they never needed them." "What are you saying?" "I am saying they are fragile. They have been so powerful for so long that they never built in safety margins. If we can hit the right systems, we can cripple ships much larger than anything we could destroy." Lisa smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Find those systems, target them, and teach these gods what it feels like to be mortal." In orbit above Earth, the damaged Vorathene destroyer was a constant reminder. Its crystalline hull, once glowing with inner light, now flickered weakly. The Vorathene had not moved it, perhaps out of pride, perhaps because moving it would admit weakness. But every human who looked up at the night sky could see it. The wounded god, hanging in the darkness like a promise that humanity was just getting started. The Vorathene cruiser crashed into Earth's Pacific Ocean with the force of a small meteor. The impact created a tsunami that hit the Japanese coast, but that destruction was nothing compared to the message it sent. A Vorathene capital ship had fallen. High Ascendant Zarkon stood on his flagship's command deck, staring at the spot where his cruiser had disappeared beneath the waves. Around him, his officers stood in shocked silence. In 3,000 years, the Vorathene had not lost a capital ship. Now, in 6 months, these humans had destroyed one. How many ships did they use? Zarkon asked quietly. Over 3,000, Ascendant. Most were small civilian vessels, barely armed. They swarmed our cruiser from all directions. Our weapons destroyed hundreds of them. But they kept coming, like insects. Insects, Zarkon repeated. Yes, insects that have learned to bite. He turned to face his assembled officers. The High Council is demanding we make an example of Earth. They want us to target civilian populations. They say mercy has made us weak. Relevity safe. Understand. Or see. The spunted officers. Or see. What will you do, Ascendant? Zarkon looked out at the blue world below. Such a small planet. Such stubborn people. If we massacre civilians, we become the monsters they believe we are. We will prove that we are not gods but conquerors with pretty words. The Empire will never recover from that truth. But what choice did he have? The humans would not stop. They could not win. But they refused to lose. Every day, they found new ways to hurt his fleet. Every battle taught them something new. And the Vorathene, for all their power, were learning that they had forgotten how to learn. Commander Lisa Hayes watched the aftermath of the assault from her command center. 3,000 ships. Most of them had been civilian vessels, cargo haulers and mining ships fitted with weapons. They had lost 2,400 of them. Over 15,000 people dead. But they had taken down a cruiser. They had proven that enough humans, willing to die, could kill anything. Was it worth it? Someone asked quietly. Lisa did not answer immediately. She thought about the families who would never see their loved ones again. She thought about the pilots who had flown into certain death. She thought about the weight of command. The burden of sending people to die. Ask me when this is over, she finally said. But she had another plan forming. Something more dangerous than throwing ships at the enemy. She had been talking to Kyle Bennett, a hacker who had studied the recovered Vorathene technology. Kyle had found something interesting in their computer systems. Their networks are incredibly sophisticated, Kyle had explained. But they are also incredibly trusting. They have been the dominant power for so long, they never considered that someone might try to hack them. Their security is based on the assumption that their technology is too advanced for anyone else to understand. Odor. Can you get in? Maybe. If I can get close enough to one of their ships. If I can connect to their systems. If I do not get killed. That is a lot of ifs. Commander, find a way, Lisa had told him. Because if we can get inside their computers, we can do more than damage their ships. We can turn their own systems against them. Operation Prometheus Chain launched 2 weeks after the cruiser fell. Kyle Bennett and a team of hackers were smuggled onto a captured Vorathene shuttle that had been left behind during an evacuation. The shuttle still had access to Vorathene networks, while the main human fleet staged attacks across the asteroid belt, drawing Vorathene attention away from Earth. Kyle and his team activated the shuttle's communication systems and began their infiltration. "We are in," Kyle whispered, his fingers flying across holographic displays. "Their network architecture is beautiful, like nothing I have ever seen. But it is also rigid. Everything connects to everything else in very specific ways. Can you upload the virus? Not yet. I need to find the right entry point. If I trigger their security protocols, they will lock everything down and we will never get another chance. Hours passed. The shuttle drifted in the debris field of destroyed ships, hidden among the wreckage. Kyle worked in silence, probing the Vorathene systems, looking for weakness. There, he finally said. Navigation systems. They update constantly across the entire fleet to maintain formation. If I inject the virus there, it will spread everywhere. Do it. Kyle uploaded the code. It was not designed to destroy Vorathene systems. That would be too obvious. Instead, it was designed to make their technology unpredictable, to introduce tiny errors that would cascade into bigger problems. The virus spread through the Vorathene fleet like invisible poison. The first sign of trouble came 3 days later. A Vorathene patrol ship suddenly veered off course, its navigation system sending it toward Mars instead of Earth. The crew corrected manually. But it happened again an hour later. Then the weapons malfunctions began. Vorathene ships would charge their weapons, and nothing would happen. Or the weapons would fire at wrong targets. Or the energy output would be double what it should be, damaging the ship firing it. Shields flickered randomly. Communication systems garbled messages. Engines misfired, sending ships spinning out of control. The Vorathene fleet descended into chaos. Zarkon watched his perfect armada fall apart. Ships collided with each other. Systems failed without warning. Nothing was working right. His technicians scrambled to find the problem, but the errors kept multiplying. It is sabotage. One of them finally reported. Something in our networks. I cannot isolate it. It keeps replicating and changing. Can you stop it? Only by shutting down all our systems and rebuilding from scratch. But that would take weeks. Maybe months. We do not have months, Zarkon said. As if summoned by his words, the human fleet arrived. Not thousands of civilian ships this time, but proper warships. They had been built in hidden shipyards, using technology reverse-engineered from captured Vorathene equipment. They were crude compared to the alien vessels. But they worked, and the Vorathene ships were not working. Captain Beth Carlson led the assault. Her ship, now called the Morrison in honor of Jake, spearheaded the attack. The new human weapons cut through Vorathene shields that were flickering on and off randomly. Ships that could have destroyed the human fleet in minutes found their weapons offline or firing wildly. The battle raged across the asteroid belt. For every human ship destroyed, 2 Vorathene vessels suffered critical damage. The impossible was happening. Humanity was winning. Lieutenant Amy Foster watched from her station in the command center. She had studied Vorathene tactics for months, learning their patterns. Now she was feeding battle plans to the fleet, exploiting every predictable move the aliens made. They are trying Formation Delta, she said. That leaves their cruisers exposed from below. Direct our forces there. The human ships responded, coordinating in ways the Vorathene could not, with their malfunctioning systems. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had something they had lost: the ability to adapt mid-battle. On his flagship, Zarkon made a decision. Prepare the planet cracker. His second-in-command stared at him. Ascendant. That weapon is forbidden, except in the most extreme circumstances. The High Council must authorize it. I am authorizing it. If we cannot control these humans, we will end them. The planet cracker was the Vorathene's ultimate weapon. It used quantum resonance to destabilize a planet's core, literally tearing the world apart. It had been used only 3 times in Vorathene history, against species that posed existential threats to the Empire. Earth will be destroyed, his second said. Billions will die. Better that than lose, Zarkon replied. But even as he said it, he felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. Was this what the Vorathene had become? Gods who destroyed worlds because they could not bear to be defied? The planet cracker began charging. It would take 6 hours to reach full power. 6 hours until Earth died. But Amy Foster had been monitoring Vorathene energy signatures. She saw the massive power build up on the flagship. Commander Hayes, they are charging something big. Really big. I think they are going to destroy Earth. Lisa had known this might come. Cornered animals were dangerous. Cornered gods might be worse. She made a call she never thought she would make. Amy, can you identify which ship is charging the weapon? Yes. The flagship. Good. Send a boarding team. Tell them their target is High Ascendant Zarkon. Tell them to take him alive. Lam. Lieutenant Amy Foster led the boarding team herself. They used a captured Vorathene shuttle to approach the flagship, broadcasting the identity codes Kyle had pulled from their networks. The malfunctioning Vorathene systems let them dock without challenge. The moment they were inside, all pretense ended. Amy and her team of 20 Marines fought their way through corridors of crystal and light. The Vorathene crew, unused to fighting in close quarters, were caught off guard. Humans used simple kinetic rifles that could kill without breaching the hull. It was brutal. Amy lost 8 people getting to the command deck. But they got there. When the doors opened, Zarkon stood alone, his officers having fled. He looked at the humans, pointing weapons at him, and something like understanding crossed his face. You would rather die than bow, he said. I finally understand. Amy approached him carefully. Order your ships to stand down. Turn off that weapon, or I will kill you right here. Zarkon looked at her for a long moment. In her eyes, he saw something he had seen in the mirror lately. Fear. Determination. The will to do terrible things. Because the alternative was worse. If you kill me, the weapon still fires, he said. Then give me a reason not to kill you, Amy replied. Zarkon closed his eyes. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he felt truly mortal. High Ascendant Zarkon stood on his own command deck, surrounded by human soldiers, and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Powerless. His flagship systems were failing. His fleet was in chaos. Order your fleet to stand down, Amy repeated, her weapon steady. Turn off that planet killer. Now. Zarkon could have refused. Part of him wanted to. Pride demanded it. But he had studied these humans long enough to know what would happen. They would kill him. The weapon would fire anyway, and in the end, they would still find a way to survive. Because that was what humans did. I will give the order, he said quietly. On one condition. You do not get to make conditions, Amy said. Just one. Grant me a conversation with your leader. Face to face. Before you decide what to do with us. Amy considered this. She had orders to secure the flagship and disable the weapon, but maybe having the enemy commander ask for a meeting was worth more than just killing him. Commander Hayes, this is Foster. The target wants to negotiate. Lisa's voice came back immediately. Secure the weapon first. Then we will talk. Zarkon gave the command. The planet cracker powered down, its destructive energy dissipating harmlessly. Across the fleet, Vorathene ships received his order to cease fire and hold position. Some of his officers protested, but Zarkon's authority was absolute. For now, 3 days later, President Connor Blake arrived on the Vorathene flagship. He came with an armed escort, but he insisted on meeting Zarkon alone in the observation chamber. Commander Lisa Hayes objected, but Blake overruled her. If they wanted me dead, they could have killed me 100 different ways by now, he said. Let me talk to him. The observation chamber was a dome of crystal that looked out at the stars. Zarkon stood with his back to the door, his glowing form reflected in the transparent walls. Thank you for coming, he said without turning. I did not come to chat, Blake replied. I came to hear your surrender. Now Zarkon turned. His face, which had always held such certainty, now showed something different. Confusion. Maybe even pain. I have lived for over 1,000 years, Zarkon said. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have guided 847 species into the Empire. I have never failed. Until now. You did not fail, Blake said. You just met someone you could not beat. That is the same thing. For us. For the Vorathene. Zarkan moved to the window, looking down at Earth. We have been gods for so long. We forgot that even gods can bleed. You were never gods, Blake said. No. It is more than that. You do not understand what we are. The Vorathene were like you once. We struggled. We fought. We clawed our way up from nothing. And then we won. We won so completely, so thoroughly, that we forgot how to struggle. He turned back to Blake. We became soft. We let our technology do everything. We stopped adapting because we did not need to adapt. And when we met you, we met ourselves as we used to be. Hungry, desperate, willing to die before accepting defeat. So now what? Blake asked. Do you destroy Earth to preserve your pride? Do you retreat and pretend this never happened? Or do you finally admit that no one has the right to rule others? Zarkon was silent for a long moment. The High Council wants me to destroy you. They say you are a threat to the entire Empire. They say if other species see that we can be defeated, the Empire will collapse. Maybe it should, Blake said. Maybe, Zarkon agreed. But I will not destroy you. I cannot. You have earned the right to exist freely. You have proven that. We should not have to earn that right. It should be automatic. You are correct. But understanding that is easy. Accepting it when you have been supreme for 50,000 years is harder. Zarkon touched a control panel. Holographic displays appeared, showing Vorathene space. I am withdrawing the fleet. We will leave your system. Earth will be recognized as an independent world. Blake studied him carefully. Why? You could still fight. You have more ships coming. Because you taught me something I had forgotten. Power without wisdom is just tyranny. We thought we were wise because we were powerful. You showed us the truth. And what happens to you? To the Vorathene? Zarkon smiled sadly. The High Council will likely remove me from command. They will call this a test that humanity passed. They will find pretty words to explain away their failure, but the truth will spread. Other species will hear what happened here. They will know that the Vorathene can be defied. The Empire will never be the same. Ard. Blake felt a strange moment of sympathy for this alien who had tried to conquer Earth. Good. The next week was chaos, as the Vorathene fleet prepared to withdraw. The High Council sent message after message, demanding explanations. Zarkon gave them carefully worded reports that made humanity sound more like natural disasters than enemies who had outfought them. But everyone knew the truth. Commander Lisa Hayes supervised the transition, making sure Vorathene forces actually left Earth space. She watched their ships depart one by one, their crystalline forms disappearing into the darkness. We did it, Colonel Danny Webb said, standing beside her. We actually did it. At what cost? Lisa replied. She thought about Jake Morrison, about the thousands who had died in battles, about the families torn apart. We won. But it was not cheap. It never is, Danny said. But it was worth it. Dr. Kevin Patterson was already analyzing every piece of Vorathene technology they had captured. His team had months of work ahead, reverse engineering alien science that was centuries ahead of human understanding. This will change everything, Kevin told Lisa during one of her visits to the research station. We will need decades to fully understand what we have recovered. But when we do, humanity will never be the same. Just make sure we use it better than they did, Lisa said. Ambassador Nicole Grant had the difficult job of establishing formal diplomatic relations with the Vorathene Empire. Despite everything, the two civilizations would need to coexist. They are offering trade agreements, Nicole reported. Technology exchanges. They want to pretend this was all some kind of test. Let them, President Blake said. Let them save face if it keeps the peace. We know what happened. That is enough. But peace with the Vorathene was only part of the story. News of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy, faster than light. Species that had been conquered by the Vorathene began to reach out. Some wanted alliance. Some wanted to learn how humans had won. Some just wanted to know that rebellion was possible. Blake addressed Earth and the growing interstellar community 6 months after Zarkon's departure. We did not ask for this fight, he said. We did not want to be a galactic power. We just wanted to be free. But now the galaxy is watching. Other species are looking to us for inspiration. They are asking if they can resist their oppressors too. And my answer is yes. Yes. You can resist. Yes. You can fight for your freedom. Yes. You can win. Because that is what freedom means. Not being strong enough to never be challenged, but being stubborn enough to never quit. Captain Beth Carlson took command of Earth's expanding fleet. New ships were being built, incorporating both human and captured Vorathene technology. Earth was no longer just defending itself. It was preparing to help others defend themselves. We are not conquerors, Beth told her crew. We are not going to replace the Vorathene as the dominant power. We are going to show the galaxy that there is another way. A way where species work together as equals. Lieutenant Amy Foster, promoted to commander for her actions on the Vorathene flagship, became an instructor. She taught new officers about asymmetric warfare, about adapting to superior foes, about never giving up. The Vorathene made a mistake, she told her students. They thought power was enough. They thought having the best technology meant they would win. But wars are not won by technology alone. They are won by people who refuse to lose. On Earth, a massive monument was built outside the ruins of the United Nations building. It listed every name of everyone who had died fighting the Vorathene. Millions came to visit it, to remember, to understand what freedom had cost. At the top of the monument, carved in letters 10 feet high, were Jake Morrison's final words. We are humans. We do not know how to quit. Zarkon watched from his exile on a distant Vorathene world. The High Council had indeed removed him from command. Though they gave him a comfortable retirement, he spent his days studying human culture, trying to understand how he had lost. And slowly, he began to understand. The Vorathene had been supreme for so long they had forgotten the value of struggle. They had eliminated every challenge from their lives. They had made themselves perfect, and in doing so, made themselves weak. Humans, by contrast, had struggled with every breath since their species began. They had fought the ice and the heat, the predators and the diseases, the hunger and each other. Every generation had faced death and survived. They had been forged in fire. When the two species met, it was not superior technology versus inferior. It was stagnation versus adaptation, comfort versus hunger, gods versus survivors. And the survivors had won. A year after the war ended, a transmission reached Earth from one of the Vorathene's former subject species. They had rebelled. They had driven the Vorathene out. They used human tactics, human strategies, and human determination. They won. Then another species rebelled. And another. The empire that had stood for 50,000 years began to crack. Not because humans destroyed it with weapons, but because humans destroyed it with example. President Blake watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Rebellions, independence movements, new alliances forming among free species. The galaxy was changing, and Earth had lit the spark. We did not just win a war, Commander Lisa Hayes said, reading the same reports. We started a revolution. Ardor now. Good, Blake replied. The galaxy needed one. 5 years later, Earth hosted the first galactic assembly of free worlds. 50 different species sent representatives. They came to establish rules for peaceful coexistence, to create agreements about trade and defense, to build something new. The Vorathene were not invited, but they sent a message anyway. It came from Zarkon personally. "I watched you build something I never could," the message said. "An alliance of equals. A civilization based on mutual respect rather than domination. I understand now why we lost. We were not fighting a weaker species. We were fighting the future. The galaxy will remember many things about the Vorathene. Our technology, our power, our empire. But it will remember you for something more important. You showed the galaxy how to be free." Blake read the message to the assembly. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then, one by one, representatives from 50 worlds rose to their feet. Not to applaud, just to stand, to acknowledge, to remember, to honor the humans who had faced gods and made them bow. Commander Lisa Hayes stood in the observation deck of Earth's newest station, looking out at the stars. So many worlds out there. So many species, finding their freedom. So many possibilities. "We changed the galaxy," Amy Foster said, joining her. "No," Lisa replied. "We reminded the galaxy what it could be. That is better. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, in all the places where beings looked up at the night sky and dreamed of freedom, a story was being told. It spread from world to world, species to species, becoming legend. It was the story of the small blue planet that refused to bow. The story of the humans who fought gods and won. The story that proved freedom was worth any price. And in time, that story would outlive empires, outlast civilizations, and endure longer than even the longest-lived species could remember. Because stories about freedom never die. They just inspire the next generation to fight for their own.